This bike has a lot to live up to. Although there are two sides to every coin if you want to be dramatic. It has the legendary 765 engine used in Moto 2. Or the engine they're forced to use in Moto 2. A frame evolved from the iconic Daytona 675. Or a bike they discontinued. And multiple Bike of the Year accolades. Or awards from a British magazine to a British manufacturer. Well, I get to spend the next 5 days, or 127 hours to be exact, with the Triumph Street Triple 765 RS to uncover all of its quirks and equipment. I've never actually ridden a 765, but I do own its big brother, the Speed Triple, so I'm keen to find out. Oh, and then see how it stacks up on the scoreboard.
Thank you to Chiggy for sponsoring this video.
These days, the Street Triple is arguably the better known naked bike that Triumph make, despite only being launched in 2008, 14 years after its big brother, the Speed Triple. I say this because every time I make a video about my Speed Triple, there are always comments from people assuming that I misspoke and meant to say Street Triple, but in fact, they are two different models. So it's obviously a naked bike with an inline 3-cylinder 765cc engine, because after all, Triumph are famous for their triples. However, these engines have only been 765s since 2017. Before that, there were 675s, and back then, Triumph even made a super sport version called the Daytona 675, and to this day, it is still remembered fondly for its brilliant handling. So ever since Triumph bought out the 765 engine, everybody has been begging them to make a super sport version. But thus far, all they've graced us with is a Moto 2 limited edition. So there's only 1,530 units. They're clad in carbon fiber, so needless to say, out of reach for most people.
Meaning for the average Joe, this is as close as we can get, and it starts at $13,000 or less for the R model with cheaper equipment. However, a bike this loved and this purposeful can't possibly have many quirks, but it does have some pretty impressive equipment. So let's go over a few of the immediate quirks I noticed on my ride home from Triumph Johannesburg here in South Africa. A good place for a new Triumph, used bike, knowledgeable workshop, or just anything with a Triumph logo on it.
The first time I picked it up off of the kickstand like this, I almost dropped it over the other side because it was so much lighter than I was expecting. Even just paddling it around like this is insanely easy. So technically, you don't have to use the engine. You can just paddle it around like this everywhere you want to go.
The seat height is just right for average-sized people like myself at 5'7". I can flat-foot it pretty easily and push it around without needing any muscles.
My favorite feature, without a doubt, is this Brembo MCS master cylinder, or multiple click system. The brake lever has the usual reach adjustment dial here, like you're used to seeing, but the master cylinder itself actually has its own dial that adjusts how the brake lever feels to pull, ranging from a longer, more gradual pull to a shorter, more aggressive pull. It's really cool and some proper premium stuff. Do you want to know a secret? If you look under the passenger seat here, there's actually a hidden USB port. Weirdly enough, it's a USB Type A port, not a Type C, but better than nothing, I guess. At first, I thought the tachometer was incredibly useless because it's so small here that you can't even read it. But then I realized that there are actually 4 different dash layouts to choose from, none of which have an incredibly easy tachometer to read, but a lot better than the first one I had. So now I can almost see the red line before I bounce off the limiter. In my mind, I automatically compare this to something like a Yamaha MT-07 because they're both naked bikes and they both have a 7 in their name. But in reality, this actually makes more horsepower than an MT-09. Slightly less torque because it is smaller displacement, but that should tell you that this bike means business. And finally, this is the smoothest quickshifter in the industry. So yes, this little purposeful bike is so focused on riding that it doesn't actually have bizarre quirks. but depending on your taste, its biggest quirk might actually be the way it looks. So let's look a little closer.
As you might expect, I think it looks brilliant, but it shares a lot of traits with my Speed Triple, so I can't be rude about it, although it would look better in Cosmic Yellow.
But in all seriousness, I wasn't a fan until the 2023 update, and now I love the bug eyes, especially with these DRLs.
I like the little air intake just above the lights. I like the front mudguard made up of multiple pieces. I like the Triumph logo on the fuel cap key cover. I like the little opening that you can see through in these tail panels. I like the splash of a belly pan. I like the two different materials and stitching on the passenger seat. I like the swing arm with sharp angles, even if it doesn't have a single-sided swing arm like the Speed Triple.
And nobody has ever criticized the way Triumph bar end mirrors look in the history of their existence. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of shorty exhausts like this, but they are what suit middleweight bikes best after all. This one is very premium looking, even if emission laws do stifle its voice.
It has a rather sleek tail, and I always love the RS logo on the tank here. My only complaint is the mess that are these headers, and I'm not even talking about the rust.
It obviously looks very similar to the Speed Triple, and a part of me loves that, and a part of me is a little disappointed. In a way, I love it when manufacturers make the design language consistent across a range. And sometimes I don't like when you have to really know a bike to be able to tell the models apart at a glance. What do you think?
So it might be pretty, but it belongs out on the road. In a world full of technology and gimmicks to sell bikes, the Street Triple feels raw, like how bikes used to be. Yes, it still has intelligent traction control and ABS and quick shifters, but its purpose is obvious. It's corner hungry and very accurate.
It's shaped perfectly for you to wrap your knees around it. At about 6,500 RPM, the induction noise changes to a slightly angrier tone, and the harder you ride it, the more at home it feels.
Everything feels cohesive. The front end almost digs in as you lean into a corner. So you get to the middle of a corner wishing you'd carried more speed, not panic braking to shed speed like on some less composed bikes. But maybe that's because it makes braking fun as well. Honestly, at city speeds, it's almost underwhelming at first. It obviously doesn't pack the punch of a big displacement naked bike, but as time went on, I learned to have my fun in the corners and not in a straight line, and boy is it addictive this way.
It really needs to be revved out and egged on to come out of its shell, and for this reason I think it would be super rewarding on a racetrack because it has a great chassis but not a scary amount of power.
It's the classic case of sometimes it's more fun to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow.
So I've already complimented the suspension, but I think the combination that it has might surprise you.
In the rear, it has a fully adjustable Öhlins STX shock. No surprise there then.
But on the front, it has Showa BPF forks, or big piston forks. They're fully adjustable forks, they're popular forks, but they're not Öhlins surprisingly, like you would find on the rear or even on a Speed Triple for example. And I like this. It's like Triumph trying to tell you where it's worth spending money. It's like them saying that a high-end shock on this bike is more important than high-end forks. And for some reason, I appreciate that. These Dilemma radial calipers were picked out of the popular Brembo catalogue, but like I said, they work wonders on a nimble bike that only weighs 188 kilograms, especially paired with that master cylinder that I can't get enough of.
Plus a single piston Brembo in the rear.
This whole setup makes braking fun, like a challenge to see how quickly you can come to a stop. Between the brake setup, the tires and the suspension, you really feel like you know how much traction you have. Things are chosen strategically in the tech department as well, to balance that premium feel with an appropriate price tag. The key is old-fashioned. It's a real key, which isn't a problem at all, unless you're a spoiled brat. Don't tell Triumph, but I kept forgetting it in the bike when I parked it because I'm so used to a key fob these days. As expected, it does have lean sensitive traction control and ABS, which is good because on a 765, you don't need traction control in a straight line all that often.
There's the usual rain, road, street, track, and rider modes that can be customized to your liking. And this is all done on a 5-inch TFT.
But this is probably one area I would like to change. It's not a bad screen, it gets the job done, but I think the Speed Triple screen looks better and would suit the bike better. The edges of this look a bit cheap and plasticky.
It's controlled with Triumph's common switchgear, but without features like cruise control.
It's pretty bare bones. There's no tire pressure monitoring, no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, dash cams, blind spot detection, an SOS feature, or even a lean angle sensor. I mean, what are we coming to in 2025? But if you did want to add any of those features, you could always install a Chiggy AI06 like I did. And to be honest, it's changed the whole experience.
These simple little valve caps let you see your tire pressure at all times. I can also use Waze or Google Maps now and see my lean angle, which would be a fun game on a bike as nimble as the Street Triple. It can slot straight into BMW cradles as well. I had it on a GS 2 weeks ago, and then it automatically knows the bike's tire pressure and even RPM, which you can do on non-BMWs as well with these OBD dongles. Dash cams are an optional extra, which adds blind spot detection.
And there are mounts for handlebars, steering stems, crossbars, you name it. So it can be mounted to any bike and modernize it. Plus, you can get 10% off with code CHAOS10 or even more on the AI05. I'll link everything down below in case you want to learn more.
Obviously, my wife joined me on my longer ride because I find it difficult to test the passenger amenities on my own.
To be honest, I was expecting a glowing review because she really likes my Triumph. But I think the smaller the displacement, the fewer words they get, because the foot pegs were fine. The rear seat was fine. The quick shifter was, you guessed it, fine. But keep in mind that she was on the back of a really comfortable GS just 2 weeks ago. So now she thinks she's spoiled. But she did mention that it felt faster than she thought it would. As the rider, it handled the extra weight really well. It didn't upset the handling much at all, and it was still really enjoyable to ride. But keep in mind, it depends on how heavy your wife is. Usually, middleweight bikes are very obviously built to a price point. Manufacturers assume that if you want to spend more money, you're probably going to buy the top of the range anyway. But the Street Triple achieves this more subtly.
Obviously, it's a premium brand, and this is the RS model. But I don't mind that they left the single-sided swing arm and keyless ignition in the parts bin. I appreciate that the forks aren't Öhlins just for show. I don't expect cruise control on a little naked either. They put the effort in where it counts. It has a stellar chassis and motor. Trusted partners where it has the biggest impact. And it all comes together to create a formidable package that is praised for a reason.
It is such a good bike that it makes me question if it is more fun than my Speed Triple. But ultimately, you have to choose between the precision of a Street Triple or the power of a Speed Triple. And unfortunately, my brain hasn't finished developing yet, so I choose power. Nevertheless, 127 hours later, the 765 is back with Triumph Johannesburg. So now we need to give it a score out of 60 to see where it lands on the scoreboard. For reference, the Speed Triple is sitting 3rd overall, and some other middleweights like the MV Agusta F3 or Turismo Veloce are also closer to the top. Styling. I think it does look unique and it is eye-catching, which is exactly how a naked bike should be. Personally, I would be proud to own it, and I would look back at it every time I parked. 8 out of 10. Practicality. It's got plenty of power, but is still economical. It has a comfortable riding position and will be cheaper to insure than a Super Naked. 8 out of 10. Fun. There is something really fun about a bike that encourages you to push it. It's one of those bikes that you need to carry momentum on to get the best out of it, which is a blast. But we all know that there is no replacement for displacement, and this lets it down a little bit around town. 7 out of 10. Price. Price is tricky. It's at a nice price point for a quality bike. Then again, it looks like you can get a Yamaha MT-09 for slightly less, or a KTM 990 Duke for slightly more, and both of those are great bikes. 7 out of 10. Speed. It is a very quick bike, especially for its displacement, but that doesn't change the fact that it is a middleweight. 7 out of 10. Sound. It's obviously still stock, so it sounds like a boring sewing machine. With a pipe, the Triple is a great noise, but not quite on the same level as something like a V4. 7 out of 10.
Giving the Triumph Street Triple 765 RS 44 out of 60, putting it just above a Svartbillon 801, below an S1000 XR, and not far off the Speed Triple.
But anyway, there is a whole playlist of videos just like this one if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you would have the 765 in your collection. Don't forget to check out Chiggy, and I'll see you on the next ride.